off cameras for this webinar. And just in the interest of bandwidth and because we have so many participants, I think that will make it a little bit easier on everyone. I really hope that we can foster collegiality among SCRIBE users during this webinar, and really do want to encourage everyone to chime in with some conversation and some dialogue. And move through the content. I will be pausing frequently to take questions. I know that everyone is really excited about the reports, especially as we get closer and closer to the APR deadline. What is it, minus a month and 8 days? I ask, though, that everyone just kind of keeps all of the questions today, at least, for greater good. There is a question that's relevant to your grant. I would suggest that we take that conversation offline, just respect for everyone's time. We have a lot of content to cover today, a short time that we have allocated. So to start off, I would really like to do an icebreaker. I think sometimes that on webinars, we forget that we're all active participants just because of the nature of them. So I found it really helpful in pre-webinars to do an icebreaker. So I'm going to ask everyone to tell us your name, grant you're from, and the fun part, which is the last song that you heard to which you sang along. Go ahead and start. My name is Julie Jaramillo, and I am from Excalibur. And the last song that I heard to which I sang along was The Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. I would ask someone to volunteer to go next. Don't forget to take mute off. Not once.
Julie, this is Jim Brown. So Jim Brown with Excalibur. Of course, many of you know me. The song I heard and sang along to was Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles.
Good. Thank you, Jim.
This is Duran. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm with Portland Public Schools Europe, and the last song that I sang along to was Desperado by the Eagles.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kelly.
This is Barbara Sobey. I'm with Arizona Gear Up, and I suppose I tried to sing along to Adele's Send My Love to Your New Love.
Fantastic, Barbara. Thank you.
Diana Ochoa. I work with the Utah State Gear Up, we're party evaluators with RGI Corporation. And the song that I sang along to, it's Thursday, so I was listening to Billie Jean by Michael Jackson.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
This is Brainerd, and I am with Excalibur, although I'm signed in as James Brown. And I was just in the car driving back from Albuquerque, and I heard we're singing along to Daylight Again, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
You can hear me. This is Karen from South Wichita Gear Up, and I was trying to remember the last song I was listening to. I think it was Chain Breaker by Zach Williams.
Can hear you, yes. right, ready for our next victim? Well, there'll be some people who are opting out, so that's fine. I will go ahead and jump in. I'll give one last chance for anyone to chime in for an introduction and the last song that you sang along to. Going once, twice. All right, sold. Okay. What I would like to do is I would like to take a moment to introduce you to a tool that we're going to be using for our virtual parking lot. The link to this parking lot was sent out to all of our users through the email confirming your registration. It's called Padlet. Some of you may have used this before. So this is essentially going to be our virtual parking lot that we're going to use to house questions that can be answered on our call today. And I assume there will probably be many, and that's fine. I've already posted all of the questions that were posed as part of the registration process. If you have a question that you would like to add during this call, before this call, obviously we've already added, after this call, all you have to do is visit the link that was embedded in the email, and then click the plus sign down here in the corner. Once that happens, you can just start typing, and your comments will be recorded, and then completely anonymously. So I encourage everyone to use that virtual parking lot. We'll also use it during the call today. We will be following up on all of these questions. We will be utilizing social media, either Facebook, Twitter, or email to provide responses to these questions as they come available. So that I did go ahead and post all of the questions that were posed as part of the registration process. We will be adding to this Padlet through the series webinars that we do tomorrow and Monday. So feel free to access this Padlet after the calls have transpired to see if any other questions that you think are applicable to you pop up. Before with the objectives, I will go ahead and post here. I'm sure the burning question that everyone has is, when will I be able to access the new APR reports in SCRIBE? Drum roll please. On Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, SCRIBE is going to be down to all users for the new release. As soon as SCRIBE is back up, reports are going to be available to all grants, and you can start diving into those reports. If you are curious, if you're sitting on the edge of your seat on Friday night waiting for SCRIBE to go back up, I highly recommend you visit our Facebook page and our Twitter feed. Those will let you know to the minute once SCRIBE is back up. Included in my email signature, I have links for both the Facebook and the Twitter feed, so feel free to click on those and like us or follow us. Now on to our plan for today. First objective that we have is for participants to access the SCRIBE APR report. Just a reminder that you won't be able to access the reports until after the release has posted on Friday, but I will walk you through how you can access those once the release has posted. Next, participants are going to utilize the Excalibur visualizations to understand the impact of an APR reporting periods on student counts and services. Participants will recognize which part of the APR for 2017 SCRIBE reports align to the new APR format. Pause for a second. Are there any questions about the objectives before we dive right in? Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the first objective. First objective is accessing the report. As you can see, the first thing you need to do is log into SCRIBE. The next thing you do is go to the report and select APR report. I have selected a grant that has multiple versions of the report. All grants will only have one version of each section in the APR. There's a section for, there's a report for Section 3, which is grant administration and budget information. Section 4, the Gear Up demographic data. Section 5, which is data regarding Gear Up activities. And Section 6, there are actually 2 reports for Section 6. One of them is Gear Up student outcomes, and the second one is student progress by standardized test. So once you get to this level, you'll select the report that you want to generate. And then from that screen, you will just walk through the actual clicking. You'll find that, that much fewer clicks are required to generate the reports compared to prior APRs. Our reports in SCRIBE. Some of the reports you can filter grade level. You can filter all of the reports by school. And if you use the program option, then you want to select the correct program for which you are running your APR. So another thing that you can also do is you can also filter by date. This is particularly useful for those of you in your first reporting year for the APR. As you know, for the first year, you're only reporting through the beginning of your grant through March 31st. So this is a feature that's particularly helpful to those in their first year, but can only be used by all to enter a start date and an end date for which you'd like to cover for your APR. You have generated your report, which I will, one of our next steps is to do a side-by-side comparison of the reports to the actual APR. Once you generate those reports, you will notice that the reports are far simpler, and accessing those reports is far simpler. Then you are interested in accessing the old APR reports. You can access those by going to Report and traveling down here to the bottom where it says Old APR Reports. Don't worry, we haven't gotten rid of those reports. You'll still be able to access those reports after the released post. So I will pause for a moment to see if anyone has any questions about accessing the reports in SCRIBE. At this point, I'd like to take a look at one of the visualizations Excalibur has put together to illustrate the differences in the APR reporting windows. First visualization illustrates the differences and similarities between the 2016 APR and the 2017 APR. As you can see, there is a significant overlap here in the middle between two reporting periods, basically from August 2015 to March 2016. The differences in the two reporting periods for the two different APRs, the 2016 APR and the 2017 APR, lie in the months of April through July. So when we're looking at this visualization and thinking about service participation and how service participation might be impacted by the shift in reporting periods, we can really say that there shouldn't be too much of an impact in service participation as a result of the shift in reporting periods. Maybe some scenarios where the numbers change, but most of that should be attributed to a change in service delivery. So, for instance, let's say you're a cohort grant that traditionally doesn't provide summer services. However, during the summer of 2015, your cohort transitions to high school. Once that, if that happens, you may plan and deliver a summer bridge service or program for students. And in this case, you might have a higher number of service hours during the 2016 APR compared to 2017 APR. The difference is really due to a change in service delivery and not attributed to a shift in the reporting periods. I didn't take a moment to tell you all this, but I will be emailing you a copy of the PowerPoint slides as well as a handout that we will be reviewing here in a few minutes after the call. That being said, looking at the service participation hours and how those might be impacted by the two different reporting periods, the 2016 reporting period, which crossed school year 14-15 and school year 15-16, and 2017 reporting period, which only aligned to the 15-16 reporting school year. I wonder if anyone has any questions about how this shift in reporting periods might impact the number of service hours. Does any questions about this visualization at all? What I'd like to do now is provide you with two visualizations that will explain how the shifts in reporting periods might impact the number of students that report in your APR. So we anticipate that Gear Up grants may see a drop in the number of students between the 2016 and the 2017 APR. And what about why that may happen because of, well, so we know why. It's because of the two different report periods, but we'll kind of generalize what specifically within that shift attributes to the reduction in numbers. You know, the 2016 APR reporting period crosses 2 school years. The number of students is comprised of all students from 14-15 and all students from 15-16. 17 APR is only comprised of 1 school year. For the 2017 APR reports on 1 fewer cohort of students. And on 2 slides, I'm going to show you 2 different visualizations that capture what causes that reduction. First visualization is specific to cohort grants. In this visualization, you can see the 2 different reporting periods illustrated by rows. So this is the 2016 APR, and this is the 2017 APR. There's a column for 14-15 students and a column for 15-16 students. During the 14-15 school year, student A, B, C, D, E, and F were enrolled in the school. During that school year, students E and F withdrew. And at the beginning of the next school year, students D, H, and I enrolled in the school. So for the purpose of the 2016 APR, you can see that we would actually add all of these students from 14-15, those who withdrew, to students, the new students in 15-16, which obviously these numbers are simplified for this example, but it gives us a total number of students of 9 students. So you can tell where that count comes from. The 2017 APR, we only count students A, B, C, D, G, H, and I. gives us a total of 7 students for the APR 2017. This logic holds true for priority grants as well. It's magnified a little bit more because you have more students essentially in different grade levels. But essentially the counting logic, this is where we might see a difference in the number of counts for a cohort grant. Pause for a moment. Are there any questions that you may have regarding this visualization and how the counting changes from the 2016 APR to the 2017 APR? To chime in, just don't forget to take yourself off mute. Often do. I will ask if this makes sense to everyone.
Makes sense to me.
Thank you. Thanks. So, if you do have a question, please stop me, and I will be happy to go back and revisit this or a line. I am not sure, since I've got my screen in presentation mode, I can't tell if anyone's using the features in WebEx to raise their hand or anything like that. So if you're using those features, just know I don't know that you're using them because I can't see them on my screen. You to just speak up if you do have a question. On the next slide, I'm going to present a visualization that illustrates how the change in a priority grant might look like, what the change in a priority grant might look like. This visualization illustrates the cohort of students that would not be counted in the 2017 APR. This visualization does not take into consideration any attrition due to mobility, withdrawals, enrollments. If, for the sake of the example, it's holding the number of students in each cohort constant. As you can see on the left-hand side here in kind of the marigold color, we've got the 2016 APR. And there on the right side, we have kind of a yellow 2017 APR. Rows indicate the cohort of students, even though we're talking about a priority grant. This was the easiest way to refer to students across multiple grade levels. So as you can see, the class of 2021 is counted in both the 2016 APR and the 2017 APR. Class of 2020 is counted in both APRs. But move down here to the class of 2014 in the case of a grant who serves post-secondary enrollment students. This cohort of students counted in the 2016 APR, but would not be counted in the 2017 APR. So what this ends up doing is that it ends up affecting the total number of students by about 500 students in this example. Of course, the magnitude of the impact would depend on the number of students in that cohort in your specific grant. You are serving post-secondary students. This row right here would actually move up to the class of 2015. And so the class of 2015 would be the cohort that wasn't counted if you're not serving post-secondary students. So, this visualization hopes to explain how the counts differ in a priority grant, holding mobility constant, essentially. There would still be some minor changes as a result of enrollment and withdrawals that might happen during the school year as well. But this is the most significant, it's the biggest group of students that that reduction. So again, a pause for a moment to see if anyone has any questions about this visualization or how a cohort or a priority grant, might be affected by the change or the shift in reporting period. We are about halfway through our allotted time, and I think we're right on schedule for the final objective for this call, which is to do a side-by-side comparison of the 2017 APR and SCRIBE 2017 APR documents. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump out of the PowerPoint and I'm going to pull out a handout that I've created to kind of do this side-by-side comparison. Before we actually look at the SCRIBE APR reports in comparison to the APR, I would like to just call your attention to a few things that happened behind the scenes as a result of the change to the APR format. First, as you probably all know, family cultural events is no longer reported as a separate service in the APR. So what SCRIBE has done behind the scenes is all family cultural event services have been mapped to workshops. So that participation is still counted in that category. Also, tutoring is now a standalone service in the APR. So, what SCRIBE has done is it's pulled that service out of support services and now reported as a separate type of activity. The third thing that's kind of happened behind the scenes is that exit codes are more important in the new format of the APR. So there are 4 types of exit codes now used in SCRIBE: withdraw, opt-out, retained, and promoted. When I get to that specific report, I'll call your attention to some things that you can look for as you look at your reports to ensure that your data has been entered correctly. And then educator participation has been mapped to professional development because curriculum development is no longer a service type reported in the APR. So, I would just want to remind everyone that the reports that are generated are really only as good as your data that's in SCRIBE. If you find that you have concerns about the integrity of your data after running one of the APR reports or just in general, that you don't expect, let us know here at Excalibur, and we will be happy to dig into the data with you to try to identify the cause.
Do you have a question?
Yes, please. Who am I speaking to, if you don't mind?
This is Barbara from Arizona. I mentioned that now that student participation in family events or cultural events is mapped to workshops for the APR. I just wanted to clarify, for parent participation in family events, that's still mapped to family events, right? Still a parent service category.
It's still separated based on the type of participation, whether it's a student participation or a parent participation. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Thank you for that, by the way. Before I go on, does anyone have any questions about those 4 things that have changed behind the scenes within SCRIBE?
I have one more question, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
It's Barbara again. I know that I talked to Jim about mapping 1 or 2 things to that new category of supportive services, since tutoring is no longer in supportive services. And I'm wondering if it would be possible for Excalibur to share with all of your clients what kinds of services everybody's mapping to supportive services.
That's a really good question. So essentially, you're interested in seeing what other types of services people are mapping to supportive services, if I'm understanding you.
We all used to map our tutoring to that because that's the only
Yep.
place to capture tutoring. When we take tutoring out of that, we were actually left with nothing, and so I had to figure out which services to map to that since it's a required service. And so I imagine others might have been in the same position.
I'm adding that to our Padlet parking lot, and I don't know if that would be an issue, Jim, but we certainly can. I mean, we have the capability of doing it. I don't know that there would be any issues with that.
Issues in sharing that. I think that's actually a kind of another topic where we could have a discussion group, if after this call, where people could talk about other activities that could or should fit into that. A, I don't think there's any issues in sharing, and B, I think it'd be a further discussion might be warranted. So, thank you for bringing that up, Barbara.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions before we dive into these reports? All right. Again, feel free to just jump in if you do have a question. We want this to be a forum that's useful to all SCRIBE clients. So as we get to the reports, overall, I think you're going to notice that the SCRIBE reports are more closely aligned visually with the APR, down to a letter, down to a period, down to a comma. Our development team has been very intentional with how they're the SCRIBE APR reports to the actual APR. We'll let you know that there are some cases where SCRIBE actually provides you with multiple ways to report the data. And in those cases, it will be the grants, it has the choice as to which way they would like to populate or complete their tables in the APR. I'll give you an example that you will see as we move through this. In the participants with limited English proficiency tables, report, I should say, there are tables that are generated by SCRIBE, and grants can choose essentially which table they want to use based on how they currently enter data. There are also some cases where multiple tables are needed to provide you with the information that you need. For example, the educational progress section of section 6 actually SCRIBE creates 6 tables that you can use to populate the 6 columns in the APR. That one little table contains so much information that we can't squeeze all into one table.
Sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
Are you, should the PowerPoint be moving forward? Because I've been on this one same screen for, I don't know if I've now done something wrong.
Nope, anything wrong. I haven't moved the screen yet. Can you see it move now?
Thank you.
A little bit of background first.
Great, okay, thanks.
This is the handout that I will be sending out to everyone after the call. On the left side, you will see the APR. On the right side, you will see the report in SCRIBE that has been created to help you complete the APR. So as you see, Section 1 and Section 2, there aren't any reports that SCRIBE supports or creates for Section 1 and 2 of the APR. These are mainly the narrative sections that grants complete. However, we do have an element that is supported by the SCRIBE report, and that's FAFSA completion. This right here is populated based on dates. If by chance you don't have access to dates, but you have FAFSA completion status, our suggestion to you is that you select an arbitrary date for FAFSA completion each year, and then import that so that this table populates for you. Any about Section 3, the FAFSA completion? So, whoops, I went too far. Sorry about that, everyone. Make it a little bigger and see if you can still see it. There we go. Section 4, we're talking about demographic data. Most of these reports should look fairly similar. They're very similar to the reports, the APR reports in prior years. Let's see, zoom in one more time. Okay, so as you can see, those of you who have used SCRIBE to populate your APR in the past, as you can see, there's a stronger alignment between the format of the tables. There's pretty much a one-to-one connection between ethnic background. In general, the only difference that you'll see is this unknown field right here. And that's a good check for you to check your data integrity. So you have students who are populating in unknown. You can go in and use the incomplete demographic data report in SCRIBE to see if students can get those issues fixed before you submit your APR. Next section of the APR that SCRIBE reports support is the participants with limited English proficiency. So as you can see in this with this section of the APR, there are actually two options that are presented with. Grants will basically select whether they use the ESL table, which is populated through the is ESL field through enrollment import, or they can use the second table, which is the English language proficiency table. Grants input the proficiency level. You need to determine at which level difficulty exists. So where essentially are you drawing the line? Realize this first column is ESL. Base language over here in the APR, we're looking for students whose native language is other than English and who have sufficient difficulty speaking, reading, writing, or understanding the language. So depending on how your data is has entered into SCRIBE, use either the top table or the second table. And of course, don't fret if you only have data in one table. All it does is make it easier to choose which table you should use. So in this particular example in the handout, no has been entered the second way, as all data has been entered the first way through the is ESL field. The next section of the APR is the participants with IEPs. Pretty much a straightforward connection between the APR and the SCRIBE report. Section is the participants who meet unique priority student designations, essentially students who are identified as homeless or who are in foster care. Note that these fields are actually new to SCRIBE. They will be available in the new release that will be added to SCRIBE on Friday evening, again around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That field will be made available in SCRIBE. Currently collect this data. All you need to do is just import it into SCRIBE once the new release has posted, and this table will populate for you. If you collect this data, we can certainly talk about, I'd be happy to talk to you offline about how Excalibur can help you with this aspect of your data management. I call your attention to the fact that those last three tables that we mentioned, English proficiency, individualized education programs, and unique priority student designations, are all designated not mandatory by the Department of Ed, but we certainly have the capacity to support you in completing those tables through SCRIBE. The next section in section 4 is participating housing projects. Is not a report in SCRIBE that supports this section of the APR. I'm going to let's keep moving forward. The next report, this is again another new report for SCRIBE. The participating Gear Up schools, this is number 7 in section 4. This table will populate, and there's pretty much a one-to-one correlation between the table that is in the APR and the report in SCRIBE. The only thing that really isn't populated is whether they're active during the reporting period. We'll use your context to complete the column in the table.
That'd be a PDF or an Excel report.
This is a yes.
It's able to copy from it and paste it into the APR.
This section is part of the APR portal, so I don't think you'll be able to copy a whole table. You'll be able to copy the individual elements, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, I didn't figure you would do the whole table, even a row at a time or a cell at a time, but I didn't know if that would work for PDF.
It should. It should. I would encourage you to provide us with, if you find out differently, please let us know so that we can correct our information as we push it to other SCRIBE users.
But there is also a report, should be under schools, school list that may be a list of schools, and I think you can get that in Excel as well.
Thank you.
I actually, I noticed that this year the Department of Ed actually left, if you're not a grant, you've already entered your school, the school's actually in there this time around. You don't have to type them in again. It's
nice.
Really good news.
So now you just need to, you just need to put, yes or no, and it's actually just a little check mark that you click if they were a participating site.
Unless you've added new schools or it's your first year, it sounds like that will be populated for you. That's great. This is so important that our users talk. So the next section is the participant distribution by grade and status. This is a new report, a new table in the APR. I'll take a moment and call attention to there's one key difference between the SCRIBE report and the APR. That is that column A is included in the SCRIBE report, the number of Gear Up students proposed. If anyone has been in the portal and they've seen that this has been pre-populated, I would be curious to know that. In looking at the instructions that the Department of Ed provided for the APR this year, it didn't look like it was pre-populated. In the past, I think it has been, so that's been a change.
It actually was not populated.
No, thank you. Thank you. So that's one difference between this table and that table that I would just call your attention to. Of course, you can get the number of students that you've proposed to serve through prior APRs, or you can access that in your actual grant proposal. So as you're chugging in the APR portal, just make sure that you kind of shift the table over one as you're putting those values in. Run report, keep an eye out for all zeros in this column right here, which is the number of students who withdrew. This is a sign that you may not be using exit codes. As I mentioned previously, the new APR really requires the use of exit codes for Gear Up grants. Feel free to reach out to us for assistance in this data. I would also encourage all grants to access the SCRIBE configuration report to verify the exit codes are matched correctly. And you can do that very easily by going to Reports in SCRIBE, go to SCRIBE Configuration, and then go to the report titled General SCRIBE Lookups. As you can see, the APR provides a table for cohort grants and a table for priority grants. Creates one table, and then, you know, it's kind of the grant's responsibility to determine which table, number 8, number 9, gets completed. Section 5, data regarding activities. Here we get to the unduplicated count questions, which are new to the APR. You can see SCRIBE answers those questions pretty much one-to-one, providing the number of unduplicated students, the number of unduplicated educators, and the number of unduplicated parents. Question 4 and 5 in Section 5 are not covered in the APR reports from SCRIBE. These items may be considered for a future release. If you have any questions.
Go back to that slide, which ones are?
Of course. Questions 4 and questions 5. Actually, those questions are, what is the total of number of Gear Up participants served for a reporting period by another federally funded program? 5 is for state grants only. Did your Gear Up project support statewide initiatives? Sub-questions if the answer is yes.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I'm a little slow because I was trying to pull something up from online on the slide before this one as well. And this has been a frustration to me. The column G, total Gear Up students served, there were 2 versions of the new APR that went out. And the one that's still on the Department of Ed website says that G has to be the sum of B plus C plus D plus E, even though the original one is like what you guys have, and and their technical manual, which they still have, shows the B plus C, whatever. So have you gotten verification on which formula it's supposed to be?
So I was on, I don't know if anyone else was on the APR technical manual committees that NCEP had, and there was a last-minute revision that revised this table to B and C. Also in the APR portal, the blank APR form that's on the APR portal website is the sum of B plus C. If anyone's actually been in the portal, maybe you could verify that through it.
Yeah, and I haven't in the portal yet. The one on their website is the B plus C plus D plus E, which replaced the B plus C. So it's really frustrating to me. And I checked with Alex Cho months ago, and he said it was supposed to be the B plus C plus whatever, you know, the one that doesn't make any sense. So I'll just see what's in the portal.
Yeah, verify with us, Barbara, if you would. This again, this is the blank APR form that we pulled from the APR portal, and the instruction manual has the B plus C. So I guess let's communicate and to the bottom of that. Okay, so we are at core activities provided to students. The one thing that I want to call attention to here is, again, supportive services is now without tutoring. looking at comparing supportive services longitudinally to prior APRs, you'll want to make sure that you add tutoring back into that in terms of the number of hours. Of course, you can't add the unduplicated number of Gear Up students back in because there may be some duplication among those service types. So I call your attention to that. Next table is core activities provided to parents, guardians, and family members. Since are pretty much aligned. Oh, I forgot to call attention to the other portion in both students and parents. When there are services that are mapped to others, there's an additional table that follows this specific in the report that basically lists all services by service name. Grants can, of course, decide which services to include on the APR. There's a number of entries. I believe it's 4 that you can add for the other categories. So grants have, of course, discretion as to which services they would like to include. The next section is professional development activities to educators. Note again that all educator services have been mapped to professional development. So you can take a look at that. The other Gear Up activities, which is essentially just a check box, that is not covered or not provided in the SCRIBE APR report. There's really no way to capture that. So a real easy X in a box type of question. Now get to section 6, course enrollment, course completion. Tables are essentially the same as the prior APR, with just kind of a minor adjustment. The first year IHE has been added for beneath 12. So if you do have course enrollment and course completion of post-secondary students, that will be pushed out of this table. I don't believe have any clients who actually do that now, but as cohorts move along in their educational path, that might be a scenario. We'll populate that in this report. Also, you have split courses, and you will have a custom version of Section 5 that will display your course enrollment and your course completion. You don't have to do anything different to access the split courses report. It will automatically be mapped to your grant, and you'll see that. Course completion, as you can see, and it's identical except for the first year. And this last column here, the number of students completing non-credit bearing remedial courses, which is only applicable to first year. Again, to have those courses inscribed for that column.
Excuse me, I had a quick question.
Of course. Speaking to, please?
Florencia from California.
Thank you.
I was wondering, is recommendation or best practices in terms of applying Common Core to these columns? Like what are people doing, or how they can find integrated Math 1, for example, within this context?
That's a really great question. I think this might be another example of a follow-up discussion. I feel like there could be a really rich discussion around that. Would anyone mind adding that to the Padlet? In the interest of time, we have 0 minutes left, and so I think that's a really great question, and I think we could certainly follow up with a follow-up call on the topic, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm going to keep zipping on through here. We're getting close. We're in the last section, so that's good. To the big guy, educational products by Gear Up students. So I just wanted to show you how this table can be populated. Everyone, I'm trying to be respectful of time. We probably have about 5 more minutes to get to the content. I understand if you have to drop off the call due to other obligations, but if you can give us 5 more minutes, that would be wonderful. So the SCRIBE essentially provides you two types of tables to help grants complete the number of students performing at or above grade level, which are the first two columns in this table. The first way that these two columns can be populated is through course data. So grants can see the number of students who are performing at certain categories in terms of their grades. Grants can select which grade best reflects or above grade level of their students. That is one way that you can populate the first two columns in the Educational Progress by Gear Up Students table. This way is through standardized test performance. So this is actually a separate report in SCRIBE. It's called Section 6, Student Progress by Standardized Test. This report requires knowledge of the assessment to a scale score that is proficient. What you'll do is, in accessing this report, you will select the report, you will select the standardized test or assessment that you would like to use to populate these first two columns, and the data has to be in SCRIBE. And then you will also enter the cut score. So the score that at which a student is considered at or above grade level. Instead, we used ACT Aspire. We entered the scale score, and as you can see, the number of students in this grade level, number of students are above the cut score, and then or with the score, and number of students who are successful.
Where do you enter the cut score?
In the actual menu, so when you're selecting the schools and the grade levels, actually it's that first window. Next column in the Educational Progress table is the permitted to next grade level. Past this field in the APR reports has been populated through the is retained data element. The development team has moved away from this, and now for K through 11, the students' grade levels are compared to the next year's grade level to identify whether they have been promoted. If levels are different, the student is considered promoted. If the same, the student is considered not promoted. This is the first way that I provide you to report this data in your APR. Here's, in this example, students with graduation date will be counted as promoted. If this unknown promotion status is populated with numbers, this is when a student has no enrollment data to compare to. So if a student withdraws or something of that nature and doesn't come back, this field is populated. And for the number of students permitted column, it's displayed below. It basically provides you data on students' exit codes. So grants should select the table, like before, that best fits their data. So if using exit codes, and if specifically you're using the promoted exit code, the recommendation is that you use the second table. If using the promoted exit code, the recommendation is to select the first method. And about this report. A couple more columns here. The fourth column is the number of students who with 10 or more unexcused absences. In this case, the table is fairly simple. Remember, you have to populate SCRIBE with attendance data in order for this report to play correctly. As you can see, the students with 10 or more excused absences are listed here. The students less than 10 excused absences are listed here, and then there's a total right here. The final two columns in the educational progress table reflect basically the number of students taking the PSAT or plan by the end of 10th grade and the number of students taking the ACT or SAT exam by the end of 11th grade. So grants can use this report to total the number of students taking PSAT plan and Aspire by grade. You can look at the individual assessments and the grade level for which students took the assessment. And a reminder that this data has to be actually inscribed for the report to work. So the last portion of APR is question number 4, and this question is not included with the SCRIBE 2017 APR report. Be considered for future SCRIBE release. So in the interest of time, I just want to thank everyone for participating in this webinar. I will stay on the line for a few minutes if there are any follow-up questions. Remember that we do have the Padlet for parking lot questions. We will follow up on those questions after the webinars. We will push those responses out through Facebook, Twitter, and through email. Again, PowerPoint and the handout will be emailed to you after this webinar. Included with that email will be a link to a survey about this webinar. We really ask everyone to complete the survey so that we can consider additional opportunities for SCRIBE users to work and have discussions about those burning questions that I think we all have. So, and I will stay on the call if there are any additional questions.
I have a question. It was on the parking lot. Somebody else asked it, whether all the courses in semester 1, semester 2, and summer are counted when you're filling out the course enrolled, course completed tables. Do you know if it is? If they are? Do you include?
Can
I
defer to you on that? Is that dependent on the year that's set up in SCRIBE?
No, it's not. If they count summer, so it's semester 1, semester 2, and summer. So they are counted. And Barbara, the conversation about changing the exit code, that was Kurt interested that based on conversations he had with you. Something that's of value to you.
Thank you.
Questions do you have? If you don't have any, feel free to sign off. I know everybody has a busy schedule, so if you don't have any questions, I'll say goodbye, but I'm going to stay on here. I don't want you to leave without getting a goodbye. Hi.
Julie?
Yes.
This is William. I'm with Laurencia. I was on the presentation as well. Whole recorded.
We're archiving it, so if you missed part of it,
yes.
We'd be happy to share it with you.
No.
We all have 2 additional sessions of this call. We're doing one tomorrow and one on Monday. If you'd rather, join from start to finish, or if you prefer just the archive version, that's fine too.
Okay, let me confer with the Laurencia and then see what she wants to do.
Sounds good. Shoot us an email.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Good job, Julie.
Thanks, Jim. Is it us now?
I think Karen Rogers is still there, so she.
Okay.
I'm not.
I don't know if she's real. I'm not sure how she's there.
Karen Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
She's participants list.
No, she was in twice.
Well, I guess we are, we're all done. I think that went pretty well, don't you guys?
That was outstanding.
Good.
I would turn off the recording.
Good call. Tristan, you turn that off, or do you want me to?
Yeah. No, I will. Sorry. Forgot.